Now, Libya has been torn apart by fighting since longtime ruler Muammar Gaddafi was overthrown in 2011. It's divided between militia groups, which mostly back two rival governments. The UN-recognized administration led by Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj is based in Tripoli. It's supported by Turkey and most Western nations, including Italy, which is worried the fighting near Tripoli will force more people to cross the Mediterranean. In the east, there is the Tobruk-based government, the center of power for warlord Khalifa Haftar. He's backed by Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Russia and the United Arab Emirates. France is also accused of providing military support to his forces. In a moment, we'll be speaking to Jamal Elshayyal, who's in Turkey's capital, Ankara. But first, we go to our correspondent in Moscow, Step Vaessen. So, Step, tell us about who is in Moscow and how we're expecting things to play out this Monday.
Well, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokeswoman has now confirmed on Facebook that both leaders are actually inside the Foreign Ministry's building. Sarraj arrived earlier this morning and Haftar was already here since last night. And they will join, as she writes, the meeting that's ongoing now between the Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Defense of Russia and Turkey. So there is this suggestion that they will all be in the same room together soon. We have to wait and see. What is the aim of this meeting is that there will be signatures put under the ceasefire agreement which was brokered between Russia and Turkey in Istanbul last week. And it's also alleged that Egypt and the United Arab Emirates will have delegates to witness this ceasefire agreement. The ministry has said that there will be a long meeting, so we don't expect anything soon, but the talks are ongoing now. And interestingly, of course, that this peace deal, this power broker agreement is done by Turkey and Russia and has come across very quickly now in the last couple of days.
Talk to us more, Step, about the role of Russia in Libya and the significance of Russian mediation in this conflict, why Russia is so keen to see an end to the war in Libya.
Well, it's interesting how quickly Russia and President Putin has managed to put himself in the position of a power broker in Libya, because we have to remember Russia has been backing Khalifa Haftar, the warlord, since 2016 quietly. Some Libyan money has been printed here in Moscow for his informal government in the east of Libya, and also some logistical support was given. But only since September, Russian mercenaries arrived in more numbers in Libya and actually have contributed to the fight. More weapons have been delivered, and that actually has changed the power balance in Libya to the extent that now Turkey, which is backing the UN-backed government, and Russia have become the main power brokers. And Russia has always supported Haftar with the idea that he is a strong man who can actually oppose Islamic extremism. But they also have kept open the communication with the UN-backed government. It's not only for Putin to be this peace mediator, but there are also, of course, economic interests at stake. And there's supposed to be some kind of deals between Turkey and Russia about oil fields in Libya as well.
Thank you very much for that, Step Vaessen, live for us in Moscow. Let's now go to Jamal Elshayyal, who's in Ankara, Turkey, for us. Jamal, as we've said, Libya's conflict has drawn conflicting involvement from foreign powers, not just the Russians and the Turks, but also other countries, Italy, France, and to a lesser extent, the Americans. What's in it for Turkey, and how soon could we see a political settlement to this conflict?
Well, there's a lot at stake here for Turkey from different perspectives in terms of the fact that both Libya and Turkey share maritime borders in the Mediterranean Sea. They have now several bilateral agreements that they have signed between the two governments in recent months, the mutual defense agreement as well as one looking at the demarcation of those borders in the Mediterranean Sea to allow for joint extraction of natural resources from there. And if we continue looking at strategically across the Mediterranean Sea, you're talking about the flow of a lot of the refugees who will be leaving North Africa coming towards Europe. There is a large part that Turkey is concerned with, or that would implicate Turkey as well. So there's a lot as far as the Turks are concerned, but also beyond that, when you look at Turkey's own strategic foreign policy objectives in terms of trying to find some sort of balance of power within the wider Middle East and North Africa region, because prior to Turkey's maybe coming to the forefront of the situation in Libya, you didn't really have that power balance. You had people who were supporting Haftar, namely the United Arab Emirates and Egypt and others, who believed that there needed to be a reversal of the clock from the Arab Spring of 2011 and a reinstatement of these strongmen, as Step was talking about, military individuals who essentially would continue the status quo of autocratic regimes in the Arab world, whereas Turkey maybe says it pushes a belief that there needs to be more pluralism in societies and in the political discourse, and therefore it was trying to reach that power balance. But what's significant here is that Turkey in this instance doesn't seem to be working alone. We have the Italian Prime Minister now coming to Ankara in the next couple of hours to meet with the president. So Giuseppe Conte will be meeting with Erdogan to discuss obviously their views on how to move forward. This ceasefire, as significant as it may be, will also be accompanied with a lot of caution, because whilst there will be an agreement to stop the fighting, there isn't an agreement to give up arms. And the fact that you would have a country the size of Libya, with the history of Libya, as well as obviously the other intricate details that form the social construct of Libya in terms of tribalism and so forth, that there would be two separate entities that have their own militia, that have their own weapons, that have their own ability to print currencies. All of that is going to make it very difficult to see how a ceasefire could hold for a very long time without there being a longer term agreement to either form some sort of national unity government, or at least to try and start de-arming or rather unarming some of these armed groups.
Thank you, Jamal, for that. Jamal Elshayyal in Ankara, Turkey for us.